Have you ever tried to explain yourself to someone who refuses to see you clearly? You speak with honesty, you bear your intentions, but every word you offer gets twisted, reshaped into a weapon and thrown back at you. They don't hear your truth. They hear their fears, their insecurities, their delusions, projected onto your face. And before you know it, they've rewritten the story, painting you as the villain. Carl Jung uncovered something deeply disturbing about minds like these. They're not listening from reality, they're trapped inside their own psychological cage. A prison built from denial, fear, and fragile ego. And when you try to reason with them, you don't free them, you just start sinking into their madness. That's why Jung warned, never waste your breath explaining yourself to someone who's replaced truth with projection. But tell me this, how many times have you drowned trying to be understood by someone who was never capable of seeing you? Jung spent decades studying this disturbing human pattern. People who looked completely normal on the surface, charming, intelligent, likable. But they lived in a private reality disconnected from everyone else's. These weren't psychotic patients in asylums. These were coworkers, friends, family members, even lovers. People who could stare into your eyes and describe your inner world, except what they described was actually their own. Here's the terrifying part, they believed every word. Their minds had rewritten the story so completely that their false version of you became their only truth. Jung called this phenomenon shadow projection. And once you understand it, you'll stop wasting time explaining, defending, or justifying yourself. Because you'll realize that no amount of logic can wake someone who's dreaming with their eyes open. Let me tell you about one of Jung's most chilling cases. In 1913, a patient came to him appearing broken and gentle, a victim of cruel, manipulative people. They told him stories of betrayal, of friends with hidden agendas, of family members secretly conspiring against them. To Jung, it sounded like a soul crushed by an unforgiving world. But then he started to notice something unnerving. Every single person this patient called evil shared the same traits. Traits Jung instantly recognized as belonging to the patient themselves. It wasn't coincidence. It was confession in disguise. The patient's unconscious mind had done something brilliant and horrifying at once. It took all the qualities they couldn't stand to see in themselves, manipulation, cruelty, selfishness, and projected them onto everyone else. By casting their shadow outward, they could keep feeling pure, innocent, morally superior, even as they acted out the very darkness they condemned. Within 6 months, that same patient had sabotaged 3 relationships, gotten 2 colleagues fired, and emotionally broken a family member, all while maintaining complete innocence. They truly believed they were the victim. Jung realized what he was witnessing wasn't misunderstanding, it was a psychological weapon, unconscious projection armed with total conviction. And now, over a century later, modern neuroscience confirms what Jung saw. When someone projects their shadow with complete certainty, their brain literally rewires itself to sustain that illusion. The same neural circuits that activate during delusional states light up during these projection episodes. They're not lying, they're hallucinating reality. Their brain's filtering system is editing the truth to protect their fragile identity. That's why shadow projectors are so convincing. They can pass any lie detector test. They can fool therapists, judges, even themselves, because to them the distortion is the truth. But the danger doesn't stop there. The more certainty they have, the more people they can infect. Psychologists call this a reality distortion field. They don't just see you incorrectly, they make others see you that way too. Jung documented cases where a single shadow projector dismantled entire families, destroyed reputations, and rewrote group realities, simply through conviction. Think back to the last time someone accused you of thoughts you never had, feelings you never felt, intentions that never existed. And they said it with unshakable certainty as if reading your soul. That moment, when you feel reality slipping, when their words make you question your own memories, that's shadow projection in real time. The danger signal is always the same. A complete mismatch between how someone describes you and what you actually experience inside. They assign emotions and motives that simply don't exist in your consciousness, and yet they speak with godlike certainty. It's not random. It's not confusion. It's a defense mechanism so refined that it can tear your mind apart. Because once you start doubting your own truth, you start living inside theirs. But projection alone isn't the full threat. The real devastation comes when they recruit others into their illusion. Jung called this collective possession, when a group becomes hypnotized by one person's distorted vision. When someone presents their projection with enough certainty, It triggers a deep social instinct in others, the urge to agree, to align, to avoid the discomfort of dissent. And soon, entire circles begin seeing through the same warped lens. This is how families exile the innocent, how offices turn on a colleague, how communities crucify individuals based on narratives that were never true. Jung identified 5 warning signs of dangerous shadow projection, and the first is absolute certainty. When someone speaks not with curiosity but with declaration. They don't say, "I think you might be," they say, "You are," with the conviction of a judge, not the humility of a human. The second is immunity to evidence. When no proof, no explanation, no apology, no reasoning can penetrate their conviction. Every attempt you make to clarify yourself is twisted into further proof of your supposed guilt. It's a psychological trap designed by the unconscious, and once you recognize it, you'll stop stepping into it. Because the truth is simple, brutal, and liberating. You cannot explain your way out of someone else's delusion. Have you ever noticed how some people react with explosive emotion over things that barely make sense? That's the third unmistakable sign of shadow projection. Emotional intensity completely out of proportion to reality. They'll respond with rage, hurt, or devastation over slights that others barely register, and in that reaction lies the real clue. Their emotions aren't responding to you, they're responding to the hidden parts of themselves they've disowned. What you're seeing is their own buried shadow bursting through the cracks. The fourth sign is the eternal victim narrative. No matter how the story unfolds, they're always the one who's been wronged. The faces change, friends, partners, co-workers, but the script never does. They live inside a repeating cycle of betrayal where they're forever innocent and everyone else eventually turns cruel. And then comes the fifth and most dangerous sign, recruitment. The projector starts quietly gathering allies. Through whispered concern or just trying to help conversations, they shape the perceptions of others, slowly painting a distorted picture of who you are. By the time you realize it, half the people around you are seeing you through their lens, not their own eyes. When all 5 signs appear together, you're not just facing confusion, you're standing inside the blast radius of unconscious shadow projection. And if you don't step away, it will devour something precious. Your peace, your reputation, or even your sanity. Jung mapped out exactly how this destruction unfolds, and it follows a chillingly predictable pattern. Stage 1, Initial Projection. It begins small, odd comments, subtle accusations that don't fit your reality. You brush them off as misunderstandings. Stage 2, Conviction Crystallization. Their certainty hardens. They repeat their story with unwavering belief. No amount of clarification shakes their view. Stage 3, Reality Distortion. Every action you take becomes twisted evidence that proves their point. Your silence becomes guilt. Your words become manipulation. Stage 4, Social Recruitment. They start confiding in others, out of concern, of course, spreading their version of reality with gentle persuasion. Stage 5, Collective Possession. Now the group begins to see you through the same fog. Suddenly, you're defending yourself from accusations that seem to appear out of thin air. And finally, Stage 6, Systematic Exclusion. The people around you unite under the same delusion, isolating or condemning you for qualities that were never yours to begin with. Once you understand this sequence, you realize just how fast it can spiral, and how critical it is to recognize the danger early. Jung warned that by the second stage, your only real option is to disengage before the projection becomes collective. Because once it does, logic no longer applies. And here's where Jung made his most unsettling discovery. You cannot reach these people through explanation. Their unconscious defense system is built to deflect truth. Every attempt you make to clarify your side only strengthens their conviction. To them, your explanations become proof that you're manipulative, defensive, or hiding something. The harder you try to untangle the misunderstanding, the deeper you get caught in their web. It's a psychological trap where every word you speak tightens the chains. Jung learned this the hard way. Early in his career, he believed reason could pierce projection, that with enough evidence and patient conversation he could bring people back to reality. But the more facts he presented, the more elaborate their fantasies grew. That's when he realized the truth. Projection isn't a problem of logic, it's a problem of the unconscious. It's not that they won't see, it's that they can't. Their psyche will rewrite reality itself before it admits the truth buried in their shadow. So what do? Jung's answer was shocking in its simplicity, and at first it sounds cruel. You stop explaining. Not because you're wrong. Not because their view holds any truth. But because explaining plays the exact game their psyche demands, and that game cannot be won. The instant you start defending yourself, you've already accepted their distorted frame as real. You've stepped inside their illusion, and once you're there, every sentence you speak becomes another piece of evidence in their case against you. Jung taught his patients something he called conscious discrimination, the ability to know what belongs to you and what doesn't. To sense, on a deep intuitive level, when you're carrying emotions, judgments, or guilt that never originated within you. Without that awareness, individuality collapses under the weight of other people's projections. Your real work isn't convincing the projector to see clearly. It's standing firm in your own clarity. It's saying to yourself, this is mine, that is theirs. It's trusting your inner reality even when others are determined to rewrite it for you. And this, Jung admitted, is one of the hardest lessons of all, because the people who project onto us are often the ones we love the most. Family, partners, old friends. Walking away feels heartless. It feels like abandoning someone who's lost. But Jung understood something deeper. You cannot help someone face their shadow while they're using you to avoid it. You can't heal them while you're serving as their mirror. The only act of love left is withdrawal, removing yourself as their projection screen so they can finally meet their reflection in solitude. Because until they do, every conversation, every argument, every explanation only feeds the illusion keeping them blind. Jung made a haunting discovery. The people who see others' darkness most vividly are often the ones still running from their own. The harder you deny your own capacity for manipulation, jealousy, cruelty, or deceit, the more disturbed you'll become when you spot those same qualities reflected back at you in someone else. The truth is simple but deeply uncomfortable. What we hate most in others is often the mirror we refuse to face. That's why Jung said stopping the endless cycle of explanation isn't just about silence. It's about integration. You can't see the world clearly until you've made peace with your own shadow. You must accept that every human potential, the noble and the monstrous, lives inside you too. That doesn't make you evil, it makes you whole. When you integrate your shadow, judgment dissolves. You stop projecting and start perceiving. You begin to see others as they are, not as extensions of your unclaimed self. And the transformation Jung witnessed in those who mastered this was astonishing. They didn't turn cold or detached. Instead, they became strategically generous, deliberate with their energy, selective with their explanations. They learned that not everyone has earned the privilege of understanding them. Some people, through honesty and self-awareness, prove they can hear truth. Others, through denial and projection, prove they never will. The wise don't explain to both, they discern the difference. They stopped casting pearls before swine, not from arrogance but from wisdom. They realized that clarity is sacred, and sacred things aren't meant to be thrown at walls that can't reflect them back. Those who have truly stopped explaining themselves radiate a quiet power. It's not shouted, it's sensed. People trapped in projection feel it instinctively, like predators sniffing out prey that suddenly doesn't bleed. Manipulators sense when their usual hooks no longer sink in. They drift away, confused, even unsettled. Not because you fought back, but because there's nothing left in you to manipulate. You don't crave to be understood. You already understand yourself, and that makes you untouchable. Jung's final insight about projection was both a warning and a promise. He saw that people who awaken to this clarity face a fork in the road. Either they're destroyed by isolation, crushed under the projections of those who cannot see, or they rise into what Jung called a pioneer of consciousness, a rare individual whose inner growth exceeds what the collective mind can yet handle. Such people see what others cannot bear to look at. They walk ahead, often misunderstood, yet anchored in truth. Their danger isn't seeing too much, it's using what they see carelessly. The wisdom, Jung said, is learning not to force sight onto the blind. So stop explaining yourself to those trapped in illusion. Not because they're evil, not because they're lost causes, but because explanation was never the medicine. Your clarity, held firm without needing validation, heals more than your words ever could. Your refusal to enter their distortion protects you both. It spares them another target for projection, and it spares you the exhaustion of fighting an unwinnable war. Jung dedicated his life to mapping these unseen territories so you wouldn't have to wander them blind. He wanted you to inherit one of life's greatest powers, knowing when to speak, and when silence itself becomes the highest form of truth. Your sensitivity to others' projections isn't weakness. It's your intuition sharpening into vision. It becomes your superpower once you stop doubting it. The moment you stop apologizing for what you perceive, the instant you stop explaining yourself to those incapable of hearing, you become psychologically untouchable. Not because you've built walls, but because you've become transparent to yourself. There's nothing left in you to distort. This, Jung said, is the true essence of individuation, the becoming of one's authentic self. A state of being so whole, so internally aligned, that manipulation becomes impossible. You no longer bend to be seen. You no longer shrink to be accepted. You exist fully whether they recognize you or not. If this resonates, understand something powerful: you're not alone. Jung didn't write for the comfortable. He wrote for the courageous. For those willing to confront their shadows, to stop performing for audiences that were never going to applaud. Your explanations were never the problem. The real trap was your need to be understood. Release that, and you release yourself. When you stop explaining and start embodying, the world around you begins to shift. Life reorganizes itself around those capable of truly seeing you. So now I'll ask you, what's been your experience trying to explain yourself to people who never truly listened? Have you noticed these same patterns of projection and misunderstanding in your own life? Drop your story in the comments. Your words might be the exact reflection someone else needs to see. And before you go, if this message stirred something within you like this video, share it, and subscribe for more insights into psychology, shadow work, and true self-mastery. Your clarity doesn't need permission. Stop explaining. Start embodying. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next dimension.